Hello, Hannah, my beautiful wife, was unusually lively that evening as we relaxed on the couch after dinner. Out of nowhere, she jumped onto my lap, smothering me with kisses and wrapping me in tight hugs. Her playful energy was even more noticeable than usual. Known as Mason to my friends, I'd met Hannah a little over 5 years ago, and just recently, we'd celebrated our 4th wedding anniversary. Our story began not long after I finished my time in the Marines. During my service, I became deeply immersed in wake training and self-defense, spending my final year as a drill instructor shaping recruits into capable soldiers. It was a thrilling chapter of my life, but I had dreams that extended beyond the military. When I left, I used my savings from 4 years of service to launch my own gym and fitness training business. The venture took off faster than I'd imagined, with every bit of my energy going into growing it and helping clients achieve their goals. At 6 feet 4 inches and weighing in at a solid 255 pounds of muscle, I had a presence that reassured my clients I could help them transform their lives. Watching them shed self-doubt and grow stronger, more confident, within just 6 months made all the hard work worth it. Hannah, the sister of one of my clients, came into my life during this time. From the moment we met, there was an undeniable connection despite our stark physical differences. She was a petite 5 feet 4 inches and weighed 110 pounds, 145 pounds lighter than me. Her delicate frame and youthful innocence at 22 contrasted sharply with my more seasoned 26 years. Though Hannah wasn't particularly interested in training herself, we quickly found joy in spending our free time together, sharing hobbies and creating memories. Our bond deepened, and within a year we were exclusively dating and then married. She turned out to be an extraordinary partner, loving, attentive, and always ready to meet my needs with unwavering devotion. One of her most endearing qualities was her playful innocence. While some might dismiss her as flighty or label her a dumb blonde, I adored her zest for life, even if her practicality occasionally fell short. As a health trainer with a well-built physique and what people called natural charm, I often found myself navigating advances from female clients. It was a constant balancing act to maintain professional boundaries. To avoid any misunderstandings or worse, false accusations, I installed video cameras throughout the gym. This move was as much about protecting my business as it was about safeguarding my marriage. With the cameras in place, Hannah could check in remotely, giving her an extra layer of reassurance. Hannah knew how much I cherished her, and I made it a point to remind her of my love often. Financially, we were in a good place. My business was flourishing, and Hannah contributed to our stability with her work as a real estate agent. Last Sunday afternoon, we were relaxing in the living room with a bottle of wine. Hannah's playful mood seemed to reach new heights. She laughed nonstop, and then, out of nowhere, she hopped onto my lap like an excited teenager, smothering me with kisses. Her affection always had a way of making me feel like the luckiest guy in the world. But just as I was soaking in the warmth of the moment, things took a sudden turn. With her fingers casually running through my hair, she gave me one of those heart-stopping smiles before dropping a completely unexpected bombshell. "Sweetheart, Caleb's taking me to dinner next Friday night. That's okay, right?" At first, her words didn't quite register. I just sat there, caught up in her radiant smile, thinking I must have misheard her. But when she repeated the question, her voice soft and sweet, I started to realize she was serious. "You're okay with it, right?" I felt like my brain had hit a wall. I couldn't wrap my head around what she was saying. "Hannah, what exactly are you trying to ask me? I'm not sure I understand." "Oh, you goof," she giggled, brushing it off like it was nothing. "Caleb from the office invited me to dinner next Friday and, well, I might have said yes." Took a second for her words to sink in. When they did, confusion gave way to disbelief. "Wait a minute. Are you seriously asking me for permission to go on a dinner date with Caleb next week?" "It's not really a date," she replied, her tone light but with an unmistakable hint of anticipation. "Just dinner, and maybe a movie." I sat there frozen, my jaw practically hitting the floor. Was this really happening? The woman I adored, my wife who had always been my anchor, was casually asking me to approve her going out with another man? Hannah, you know that's exactly what a date is, right? Are you honestly considering going out with someone else? I finally managed to get the words out, though they felt heavy in my mouth. He's just a coworker. Mason, Hannah said, her tone light, as if her words didn't carry the weight they did. We get along really well at the office, and he always brightens my day. This isn't some traditional date. Think of it like grabbing drinks after work, only it's dinner and a movie instead. Her casual explanation left my head spinning. How could she not understand the gravity of what she was saying? Hannah, you know I've never even considered being with anyone else. How can you possibly justify going out with another man? Please don't take this the wrong way, she pleaded, her voice soft and imploring. He's nothing compared to you, Mason. It's just one night. My feelings for you haven't changed at all. He means absolutely nothing to me, but I want to do this. I really hope you're not upset. A surge of frustration threatened to overtake me, but years of military discipline kicked in, helping me keep my cool. Instead of reacting impulsively, I let my mind race, quickly piecing together a plan. Ah, so you've already made up your mind? I muttered, pretending to accept her decision as I casually reached for my phone. With Hannah still sitting on my lap, her fingers absent-mindedly running through my hair, I dialed the number of a woman who'd been persistently pursuing me for months. Hi, Lauren. It's Mason, I said into the phone, catching the flicker of confusion on Hannah's face out of the corner of my eye. I'm good, thanks. Say, is that offer for Friday night still on the table? It is? Great. My wife just let me know she's interested in trying out an open marriage, and you were the first person I thought of. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Let's touch base later this week to firm up the details. Bye for now. The moment I hung up, Hannah stopped playing with my hair and stared at me, her expression a mix of bewilderment and disbelief. Who's Lauren? She finally asked. She's one of my clients, I replied nonchalantly. We've got a good connection, and she's a lot of fun, so I figured I'd take her out Friday, just like you suggested. Her reaction was immediate and fiery. She jumped off my lap, her face flushed with anger, and started hurling accusations. I can't believe you're planning to go out with some random woman. She's probably trashy. I won't stand for you being unfaithful, Mason. That's not okay. Struggling to keep a straight face, I responded calmly. And yet, you're fine with going out with your coworker? That's completely different, she snapped, crossing her arms defensively. How is it any different? I asked, refusing to let her off the hook. It's just a casual night out, she said, her tone firm but defensive. Just for fun. And that's exactly what I'll be doing too, I countered. Look, Hannah, I've never had the desire to be with anyone else until you introduced this concept of an open marriage about 5 minutes ago. Did you really think I'd sit back and let you go on a date without responding? Her expression shifted, a mix of sadness and frustration clouding her face, but I wasn't about to let her change the subject. You started this, so we're gonna see it through. You'll go out with Caleb and I'll spend the evening with Lauren. Whatever happens is out of our hands, but I hope we'll still have something left to salvage afterward. In the meantime, I'm moving into the guest room. Until Friday, there will be no intimacy between us, not even the thought of it. Knowing you're interested in someone else is too much for me to bear right now. At this moment, Hannah, I feel absolutely nothing for you. Tears welled up in her eyes, mixing with her anger. A sight that would usually make me drop everything to comfort her. But not this time. I gave her a moment to collect herself before continuing in a steady, firm voice. Starting next week, we're going to counseling. I need to understand why you feel I'm not enough for you. If you can explain what I'm lacking, maybe we can fix this. But let's be clear. The ball is entirely in your court now. The idea of you wanting someone else makes me question whether this marriage can even continue. I'm trying to approach this maturely, but Friday night will be the deciding factor. Whatever happens after that will be the result of your choice to pursue this date. I won't be changing my plans, and you'll need to face whatever comes next. Hannah left the room with tears streaming down her face, her confusion and distress evident. I wasn't surprised when I soon overheard her talking to her sister, Angela, on the phone. It was a conversation I had fully expected. Judging by the muffled tones, Angela didn't seem to side with her. And sure enough, about an hour later, Hannah reappeared, wearing her usual mask of sweetness and innocence. But I wasn't about to let my guard down or be swayed by her attempts to undo what she'd started. "Mason," she began softly, her voice wavering, "I think I made a mistake about Caleb. I've decided to cancel. I don't want to be with anyone else." "That's your choice, Hannah," I replied, my tone calm but resolute. "But let's be clear, you set this chain of events in motion, and I intend to see it through. Whether you go out or not, I won't be canceling my plans with Lauren. You made your desires crystal clear, and in doing so, you caused me pain. The only way forward for me is to follow this to its conclusion. Maybe you're right. Maybe we do need to explore dating others and fully embrace this idea of an open marriage. But remember, Hannah, choices always come with consequences." Her tears flowed freely as she tried to convince me otherwise. "Mason, it wasn't really a date. You have to understand, it was just a casual night out after work. It didn't mean anything. I'll cancel it, okay? Can't we just go out together on Friday instead?" Ignoring her pleas, I grabbed a beer and headed out to the patio, searching for some quiet and clarity. That night, I moved into the guest room, and for the rest of the week, I endured the sound of her tearful apologies echoing through the house. The next day, Angela called me directly. "Mason, is it true you're planning to go out with another woman this week? You can't do that to Hannah. She loves you so much." "Angela," I said, keeping my voice even, "it seems you don't have all the facts. Your sister agreed to go on a date with a coworker without so much as discussing it with me first. She just came home and announced it like it was no big deal. She didn't consider how that might affect me or our marriage. So yes, I've decided to go on a date too, and after Friday we'll reassess where we stand. I've been nothing but faithful to Hannah from the day I met her. But now, I'm questioning whether I can continue in a marriage where my wife is interested in other men. That's a tough hurdle to overcome. Do you understand?" There was a pause on the other end of the line before Angela answered. "Yes, Mason, I get it. I didn't realize she acted so carelessly. Please just try to be patient with her. She might not even realize how much she's hurting you. Maybe she thinks it's not that serious. Angela, I am being patient. More than she probably deserves right now," I replied firmly. "I haven't done anything drastic, but she needs to face the reality of her actions." After that conversation, something finally clicked for Hannah. She began to truly grasp the weight of her choices and how deeply they'd wounded me. She apologized earnestly, begging me to cancel our respective plans. But I was resolute. This wasn't something I could simply overlook. The realization that your wife has even a passing desire for another man is a blow I wouldn't wish on anyone. Until someone's been in my position, they can't truly understand the decisions I was forced to make. That Friday, I arranged for Lauren to pick me up. I wanted her to meet Hannah face to face, to confirm that it was okay for her to go out with a married man. Even though Hannah had said she didn't want to go out with Caleb anymore, I insisted she honor her commitment. She bristled at my term boyfriend, repeatedly assuring me that he was nothing more than a friend. When she got ready, she chose a simple, elegant dress that highlighted her natural beauty without trying to appear overly seductive. That small decision sparked a sliver of hope within me. Still, I wasn't about to let her off the hook. I told her she needed to meet Lauren to fully acknowledge the step toward an open marriage, whether she liked it or not. Hannah protested, but I stood firm. When Lauren arrived right on time at 6 p.m., Hannah's shock was written all over her face. Lauren was nothing like Hannah. She was tall and striking, her toned figure on full display in a form-fitting outfit that left very little to the imagination. Standing next to her in my tailored sports jacket, which emphasized my muscular frame, we looked like a couple straight out of a fitness magazine. Ignoring Hannah's discomfort, I even handed her the phone to snap a few photos of Lauren and me together, knowing full well how much it would rile her up. The tension in the room was thick as Hannah and I embarked on this strange and painful experiment, both of us unsure what would come next. It was clear as day that Hannah was seething, her jealousy and resentment bubbling just beneath the surface. She seemed to finally understand the consequences of opening this Pandora's box. I kept my amusement to myself as I introduced Lauren to her, biting back a smirk at Lauren's cheerful and direct greeting. "Hannah, it's so nice to meet you," Lauren said, her tone dripping with sincerity. "Mason's told me about your open marriage, and I think that's so progressive of you both. Honestly, I've had my eye on this handsome man for over a year, so you can imagine how thrilled I was when he called me on Sunday. And I hear you found yourself a new boyfriend too. Good for you." Lauren's words seemed perfectly innocent on the surface, but I could practically see Hannah's frustration mounting. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and her eyes darted toward the floor as she struggled to find the right response. Before she could say anything, the doorbell rang, signaling Caleb's arrival. Hannah's composure wavered as I let him in. Watching her fidget nervously, I couldn't help but wonder what had drawn her to him. Caleb stood no taller than 5 feet 7 inches, barely reaching Hannah's height in her 4-inch heels. He wasn't much to look at, thin, probably 150 pounds soaking wet, with a receding hairline. I couldn't fathom what she saw in him, and while he didn't seem like a physical threat, his presence still posed a challenge to our relationship. As I towered over Caleb, I couldn't resist intimidating him a little. His handshake was small and clammy in mine as I exaggerated the gesture. "My wife is all set for your big night out," I said with a mischievous grin. "Have fun." Caleb looked flustered, glancing nervously at Hannah as if seeking reassurance. Lauren and I shared a quiet laugh as we left the house, fully aware of the storm brewing in Hannah's mind. I didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt. If anything, I hoped this would force us to confront the cracks in our marriage and find some kind of resolution. The following morning, Lauren dropped me off at home just after 6 a.m. As we lingered in the driveway, our goodbye kiss lasted a little longer than necessary, a moment I was sure Hannah witnessed from the window. Lauren and I had enjoyed a memorable evening together. A wonderful dinner, dancing at her favorite club, a moonlit walk along the beach after the club closed, and finally, breakfast before heading home. She proved to be an incredible companion, an excellent dancer, quick-witted, and undeniably attractive. The chemistry between us was electric, and her kisses had left me breathless. Though nothing beyond that kiss happened, the potential for something more was impossible to ignore. Still, despite Lauren's charm, Hannah was the thought that dominated my mind all night. As Lauren and I danced, memories of Hannah swirled through my head. Walking along the beach brought me back to our honeymoon in Hawaii, stirring a bittersweet mix of emotions. Even with Lauren's infectious energy, every moment of the evening was overshadowed by thoughts of my wife, except, perhaps, for that lingering goodnight kiss. With a heavy heart, I stepped inside the house, wondering if it would ever feel like home again. Hannah was waiting for me, her face a storm of anger and hurt. The moment I walked through the door, she let loose. "Nice kiss," she snapped, her voice sharp with accusation. "What else did you do all night?" Ignoring her hostility, I greeted her calmly. "Good morning, Hannah. How was your date? Caleb seems like a decent guy." "You slept with her," she exclaimed, her anger rising. "Hannah, it was our first date," I replied evenly. "You should know better than to jump to conclusions." "First date?" she repeated, incredulous. "Are you planning to see her again?" "I don't know," I said, shrugging. "Are you planning to see your boyfriend again?" "Of course not. I don't want him. I want you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Well, you certainly seemed to want him last week. What's changed?" I asked, frustration creeping into my tone. It was becoming clear that Hannah was finally realizing the seriousness of her actions. Perhaps she genuinely viewed her outing with Caleb as a harmless evening with a friend. Caleb, after all, wasn't much of a threat. In hindsight, maybe I'd overreacted, but the idea that any woman could expect her husband to be comfortable with her going out with another man, even innocently, still baffled me. I pulled Hannah into my arms, holding her close. "Hannah, I love you more than anything," I said firmly, meeting her tearful gaze. "But I won't tolerate being with someone who desires other men, no matter the circumstances." I will not accept betrayal or infidelity. If it ever happens again, if you lie to me or break my trust, I won't hesitate to end our marriage. Do you understand? She nodded, her tears falling freely, and I held her there, hoping that this painful chapter would lead to something better for both of us. Hannah clung to me tightly, her kisses falling like a cascade across my face. I'd never cheat on you, Mason, she sobbed, her voice trembling. I've never wanted anyone else but you. It was just different. It wasn't a date. What you had with her, that was a real date. Caleb and I only had dinner, but he was so shaken after meeting you and hurting his hand that he insisted on taking me home early. I had an awful time. He dropped me off before 8 p.m., and I've been here ever since, replaying everything in my mind, torturing myself over what you might have been doing with her. And then, seeing you kiss her like that. Her voice cracked, and she dissolved into fresh tears. I held her close, stroking her back and whispering reassurances. Deep down, I couldn't help but find humor in the image of Caleb's reaction to meeting me. That firm handshake had been a calculated move. I'd wanted to make sure he understood he was dealing with someone who wouldn't tolerate disrespect. It was part of the reason I'd insisted on meeting him before Lauren and I left. Hannah, I said softly, pulling back to look into her tear-streaked face. Let's set aside everything that happened last night for now, but I'm serious about us going to counseling. There are things I need to understand, and you need to hear me out too. If we can work through this and rebuild trust, then I won't see Lauren or any of the other women who've been pursuing me. But we have to make this right together. Her eyes widened slightly, a flash of realization crossing her face as it dawned on her that Lauren might not have been my only option. Returning to our shared bed felt like the first step toward restoring some sense of normalcy. Counseling proved to be an essential part of that journey. Ms. Walker, our therapist, provided a safe and supportive space where we could unpack our feelings. She helped Hannah see how her actions had made me feel insignificant and deeply hurt. Hannah tried to explain that she hadn't thought of Caleb as anything more than a friend. She insisted their outing was no different than if she'd spent the evening with one of her girlfriends. I never even called it a date, she argued. It was just a casual night out. With Ms. Walker's guidance, Hannah began to understand the concept of boundaries in a committed relationship. Spending time with another man, especially in a way that excluded her husband, wasn't something that could be brushed off as innocent. She attempted to turn the tables, accusing me of being vindictive by going out with Lauren. It's not fair, she said bitterly. Lauren is so much more beautiful than Caleb. You knew that wasn't a fair comparison. Ms. Walker stepped in, gently reframing the conversation and helping Hannah see my perspective. Her insights eased some of Hannah's agitation and gave her a clearer understanding of how deeply she'd hurt me. When it was my turn to speak, I took the opportunity to be honest about how her actions had impacted me. Hannah, I said firmly, meeting her gaze, I love you, but you broke my heart when you brought up going out with Caleb. My instincts from my military days kicked in. I felt like I had to fight back. If you were considering seeing other men, I felt like I needed to respond by dating other women. It's not something I ever wanted to do, and I regret that it happened. But the responsibility lies with you. If this ever happens again, there won't be a second chance. You'll find divorce papers on the table within a week. I won't tolerate infidelity or any form of betrayal. I believe you when you say you didn't think of it as a date, which is why I'm willing to work on this marriage. But let this be the last time. Never put us in this situation again. After that session, something shifted between us. The weight of our emotions was heavy, but it became a turning point. Hannah became more attuned to my feelings, and we started to communicate on a deeper level. What had once felt like an impossible situation became a catalyst for growth. We continued therapy for several months, learning new ways to prioritize each other and strengthen our connection. Lauren, to her credit, showed remarkable grace. She even reached out to Hannah, reassuring her that she would step back and wouldn't pursue me further. But Lauren left the door open, making it clear that if Hannah ever ended our relationship, she'd be waiting in the wings. This realization hit Hannah hard. It forced her to confront what was truly at stake. She recognized the importance of our bond and the consequences of her choices. From that point forward, she was resolute in her commitment. She never gave me a reason to feel jealous again or entertained the idea of another man. As for Caleb, he and Hannah remained friends, though he kept his distance, careful not to cross any boundaries. I suspect our handshake had left an impression on him too. Looking back on everything, I came to an important realization. Sometimes the hardest challenges reveal the strength of a relationship. Through pain and struggle, we found a way to rebuild. Not just what we had, but something even stronger. Bye-bye.